Okay, so a quick recap of the movies that I saw in April and May of this year. And overall, they're kind of middle of the road overall. Started off okay with Super Mario Brothers. I gave that one a 5 out of 10. the Everything was just okay with it. The the storyline was just barely a storyline. The Just everything was just middle of the road. Like I said, um, it's not a movie that I would ever watch again. It's not really a movie that I really cared to watch in the first place, other than just get have 90 minutes to pass the time and check it out to see what it was all about. I would have been blown away if it was actually really good, but it was just mostly a movie for kids, and I don't think adults can get much out of it just because it's bland as far as what it has to offer when it comes to anything dramatic or anything like that. Then I saw Renfield. That one was somewhat surprising. I gave it a 7 out of 10, mostly because of Nicolas Cage. I really like Nicholas Holt. I thought the subplot with the Aquafina storyline, I was very surprised that I liked that. I think in most movies, that story and the way that it was acted and everything would not have worked. But in this movie, it worked. It felt like it was the right movie to have that type of storyline in it. And I thought, of course, Nicolas Cage was great. I thought the action scenes were really great. It's not really meant to be an action movie, but the action that was in it was fun and inventive. Same type of action that we've seen before. Very almost kind of like John Wick style. Maybe as far as like recent movies go, you can probably see where maybe they got some inspiration from that series. But overall, not a superbly great movie or anything, but one that I will definitely enjoy owning on 4K if that ever comes out on 4K. I mean, surely it has to come out on 4K at some time. I've not purchased the Blu-ray, but I thought that was good. And then a Evil Dead Rise. Once again, a 7 out of 10 movie. It it was almost Evil Dead light. There was plenty of gore and plenty of Evil Dead things in the movie, but it just seemed like they didn't push things enough. Like I think the one thing that stood out to me was in the movie you see a cheese grater, and you know that this is going to come into play, and okay, so and you almost set yourself up. Okay, I can see how a cheese grater can be really brutal and really just make you want to not look at the screen of what it could possibly do to someone. But it's like they get a simple scrape on the leg and that was it. So so yeah, so it was a little bit of a letdown in that department. Of course, you get the wood chipper. I guess that was, yeah, it was a wood chipper down in the parking garage. You get that scene, which is almost like, well, whatever lack of gore up until that point, the movie's going to try to make up for it here in this one scene. And so yeah, so that was a fun little moment with gore finally seemingly to really come appearing in the movie. But it just yeah, it seemed like they didn't try hard enough to make it an Evil Dead movie. It felt like a demonic possession movie, but not so much of an Evil Dead movie. Then we get to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I gave that one a 4 out of 10. I felt that it was just a little bit below average. The the movie had a lot of issues with it. It's a really a lot of issues. The script itself, the thing, so many things did not make sense. There was so many times I'm trying to remember really a lot about what happened, but I do remember thinking that there were several scenes where characters were doing things and actions that characters were doing just didn't seem very natural. It seemed like a big problem with any bad screenplay is instead of trying to figure out ways things can happen, you just write things so that they happen without really thinking about if it makes sense or not. Uh, so yeah, I felt from a aspect, it just didn't. It just felt like a continuing movie. It felt like there was nothing that was truly resolved, even though there was somewhat resolutions in the end. It just didn't feel like it. Uh, as far as I know, it's the third part of a trilogy, and they're not going to make a Guardians of the Galaxy movie again. Um, I'm not deep into the knowledge of these characters in these movies and the future plans for them, but it didn't feel like an ending chapter of a trilogy. It didn't feel like a conclusion to anything. It's almost like they were afraid to solidify a closing for these characters, other than maybe one of them. It just, I mean, wasn't it supposed to be the ending chapter of a trilogy? Would anyone be surprised if there was somehow a Guardians of the Galaxy 4? No, because nothing ended. So, I, I don't know. So many movies nowadays, none of them ever feel complete because, well, if there's a possibility for another one to try and make more money, then, well, you got to leave the movie open for that possibility. And I just wish that it would actually solidify characters and wrapped up the storylines a lot better. And then the final movie that I saw in May was Fast X, and I gave it a 7 out of 10. It's 7 out of 10 to me is like, it's a good movie. I, anything that's a 7 is going to be something that I didn't have any problems with as far as watching the movie. There are issues in the movie. I cannot lie and give the movie a higher score. Sure, yeah, there's lots of issues with it, but nothing that is was making me upset or mad during the movie. There were things that I was able to overlook because you have Jason Momoa chewing up the screen with a crazy character. His character, his villain, was just about the only villainous character that I've ever seen in a movie. I mean, there's plenty of characters that's been like him, but not quite exactly like that character. So that seemed fresh in a movie that's now 10 deep and one or two at least to go. It I felt that I really didn't know too much about their this being the first of a possible trilogy. So I knew that it was going to end with more movies to follow, but the way it ended, I felt was in a good spot. It felt like a natural way to end Fast X. It felt like some movies feel like that that the actual storyline could have been wrapped up and they didn't need additional movies, but I was having some enjoyment with the action and lots of the set pieces and the different storylines I felt were weaved together pretty well. So when it did end the way that it ended, I was okay with it. It seemed maybe a little bit abrupt, but that's perfectly fine. I felt in this particular movie. But that's it for these for April and May. May was kind of a light month, and June definitely I saw a lot more things. There's a couple of extra movies in June that seemed to be a little bit more interesting, and I'll be talking about those in another video. But for now, hopefully this reaches some people and gives maybe a little bit more deeper perspective on what I thought about those movies. And otherwise, have a good evening.